Cool. So media queries. Media queries allow you to do conditional logic with CSS. That's it. What does that mean? What's conditional logic?
Logic dependent on something?
Yeah, based upon some condition, we're going to run this piece of code. So let me give you an example of what that looks like. I like this example. My border is orange. When I'm at that size, and when I'm at this size, my border is blue. And when I'm at that size, my border is green. So based upon some condition, I'm running different CSS. And that condition is the size of the viewport. This browser window, another way we could say browser window in web speak is viewport. We say it's the viewport. It's the port through which I'm viewing a web page. It is different than my screen. My screen, for all intents and purposes, is a fixed size. Yes, I could go in and I could change the resolution of my screen, have a different size. Most people don't do this in the middle of looking at a web page. And if they did, your web page should still be able to adapt to it. But what would be adapting is that you have a new number of pixels in your browser viewport, right? The port through which you're viewing the web page. And anyhow, three things, or the takeaways you should have just gotten, is one of them is viewport. So that's a new word. Viewport, the port through which you're viewing a web page, aka the browser window. All right? It's different than the screen. That's one of the takeaways. The next takeaway is media queries allow us to do conditional logic in CSS. So based upon some condition, and here I'm basing it upon the condition of viewport size, I'm doing different CSS. Not only that, check out this badness. A dashed gray border when I print it. So that's why when you're looking at the New York Times and your web page looks one way, or Epicurious, and your web page looks one way when you're reading the article or reading a recipe, and then you go to print it and it's formatted well for printing, they said when somebody wants to print this, apply this CSS. Conditional logic. CSS being applied based upon some condition, whether it's the size of the viewport, whether it's the media that is looking at, is displaying this. Here we have print as the media that's going to display this versus screen here being the media that's displaying that. So that's all media queries are. Some people freak out about media queries because it has the word query in it. And if you've had any exposure to computers and programming and databases, query is a subject that takes semesters to master. That's not the case with media queries. Media queries aren't complicated, so don't freak out if you know about queries in relation to databases, like structured query language and stuff like that. Media queries are pretty simple. So to understand media queries, first thing you do is just go MDN media queries. What's the documentation? And here we have using media queries, and we have at media. You can look at both of them. We're going to start out at media because that's the way I'm going to teach it to you. Here's the syntax for a media query. It starts out, it's kind of like a rule set, right? A rule set has a selector and then a declaration block, right? But this not only has a selector, it also has a media query list. I don't even know if you'd call that a selector. But it starts out with at media. At media. And then you're going to have a media query list, and then you're just going to put a bunch of CSS between the brackets. That's it. And then based upon whatever condition is here, right, whatever conditions you put there, it's going to run the CSS between these curly braces. Cool. So we can now do conditional logic and apply CSS in certain conditions. Well, what the hell is a media query list? Well, here they call it a media query list, and then they say media query. I wish they'd also called that a media query list, because that can be a little confusing, but it's the same deal. A media query or a media query list is made up of a media type and or media features. What's that mean, media type and or media features? I could have a media type and a media feature, or I could just have a media type, Or I could just have a media feature. So I could have any combination. I could have both a media type and a media feature. I could have just a media type as my selector, my logic, conditional logic, right? Media type is screen. Media type is print. So when you saw me do that print, all it was at media print and then run this CSS. So it just had the media type print. Or I could have media features, like the feature of the media is that its min width is 600 pixels. So if we look at what media types and media features are, media types, all print, screen, and speech. I didn't highlight speech. Why would you want to, I don't know, why would you want to format something for speech? Maybe you want to change the order of it with your Flexbox stuff. But why do you need to do CSS with speech? I don't know.
Somebody who's blind.
Yeah, but they don't see the formatting. So they're just going to hear the HTML read to them anyhow. Now, if you want to change the order of it, then maybe, right? Run this flex order stuff. But, so all print and screen, that's it for the media types. And why would you use all? Why not just say, hey, this is for print or this is for screen? I don't know. Maybe you'd use all. But those are the media types. What are the media features? You got a bunch of them. 99% of the time, you're going to use width. And this is coming from somebody who has real zero, hardly any experience building production websites. It's true. Kind of funny. You're going to use width. All I've done is study it. You're going to use width. And so here are some examples of how you'd use width. At media, and then we're not saying the media type, we're just saying the feature. Right? Min width is 50 ems, or max width is 1,000 pixels. Now these are kind of confusing. Min width, let's say that was, I'll show you them in my code, because ems we haven't really worked with, and that might be confusing to you too. All right, so let's look at some examples.
Are you saying like basically if it's min width, when you put it in there, that it'll be green, and then if max width it'll be yellow?
Yeah, you're going to see that right now.
Okay.
And so here's the HTML, the standard HTML page, doc type HTML, and then the HTML tag surrounds everything, and then the head and the body, and then inside the body, the two H1s. And this says, I'm read at 900 pixels or more. And that's with min width. So min width is like from this minimum width upwards to infinity and beyond. Right? So from 900 pixels going up, it's going to apply the code. So here's the code. At media, min width, 900 pixels. So from 900 pixels or above, that conditional logic runs. Now the H1s are additive in CSS, or rule sets are additive, and they also override each other. So I'm applying H1 on lines 1 through 3, font size 32 pixels, and that gets applied all the time, no matter what, day in and day out. And then if my viewport happens to be greater than 900 pixels, I'm applying color red also to H1. If I applied font size 2, well, since font size 2 was applied after I applied font size 32, it's going to override it. Right?
Question.
Yeah.
When we're discussing media queries, is it better to have it in its own style sheet or have it at the end of your main style sheet?
Great question. There's two ways you could include media queries. One way right here is to put it straight into CSS. So you could have your conditional CSS logic right in a CSS file, right in CSS, okay? Another way, which you'll notice here, I have min width, max width, print, screen, min width. And then I have min width, max width, print, screen, min width. Well, the difference between those first 4 files and these next 4 files is these are showing you how to do it right inside CSS, a CSS file, right? Run a media query inside a CSS file. These last 4 ones say, hey, you know what? I'm going to do my conditional logic, and if I'm going to do it right when I'm calling the style sheet. So I could put it right into the link tag. Link, and then media, min width 900 pixels, pull in this style sheet.
Okay, when you give us the 3 different things, so it was viewpoint, media query, and then conditional, or that media query and conditional together? Conditional logic.
So media queries allow you to do conditional logic.
Okay, they're right, is it?
Yeah, so based on a certain condition, we're going to run this code.
Okay, so one missing, right?
One missing what?
It was one more, you said you were gonna give us 3 different ways to,
There's 3. Go ahead.
It was, just the browser, you said viewpoint, and it was media queries, that's why I was kind of a little confused, and then there's one more that,
Viewpoint.
you said viewport, I'm sorry.
Viewport. Yeah, so viewport is just the phrases that I was teaching you, the takeaways. One of them is, hey, this is the viewport. That's it.
Right,
That has nothing to do with media queries,
right.
but now we're starting to talk about media queries and widths, min width, max width of the entire screen. You kind of got to know the word viewport. So viewport is just the port through which we view a web page.
Right, no,
It's just a word.
I should have recorded, there was one more thing you said you were gonna do, 3 different ways you were gonna tell us something, and then we only got to the 2.
Yeah, that happens to me all the time too. I was recording a video today and I was like, there's 3 important points. 1, this, 2, that. There are 2 important points. I got to start this video over. And then after I start the video over, I'm like, oh, that's right. That was the 3rd point. So, what?
So welcome to my world.
Yeah, that's life. All right, so that was including it right there. Min width, 900 up. Okay? And then here's max width. So same HTML pretty much, but it's just max width 900. So that means from 0 up to a max width of 900. We're going to apply this CSS. So when we look at that, everything under 900, it's going to make it red. Everything over 900, nothing. And if you do this fast enough, you get to replicate the blink tag. And you could go into Developer Tools, and that will, as you resize your viewport, show you in the top right corner, you can see that, the dimensions. So you can see as I hit 900, it changes. 900. Up to 900, max width 900, it's red. 901, it's black.
On either of those, min or max, is that inclusive of the number you're using?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right there, you saw that at 900, it's red. So 900, red. And I set it to max width 900. So from 0 up to 900. And if it was min width, this would be from 900 up. So as I get to 900, it should still be red. But then if I go to 899, 900 still red. 899 black. So I guess you'd say that's inclusive. And if I wanted to have some combination min width, max width, I do like, you know, max width to 899, min width 900 up. Otherwise, you have some overlap where who knows what styles, combinations be applied when everything's applied, how they interact with each other.
Can you do that? I think what you saying, can you play both of them at 900?
Yeah.
And see what,
But then the styles that get applied, there's all these rules about CSS specificity. I can't even say it. There we go. And there's specificity calculators. And so a specificity calculator lets you put in like your selector. So if I had just an H1, that's an element. So it now has a specificity of 1. But if I had an element with a class, so H1 customer, I don't know. Now it has that. And if it had an ID priority, right, you can see my specificity changing. And then inline style is the highest. And there's a way that that all adds up to figure out which rule gets applied. And if things have equal specificity, it's the last one that overwrites the previous ones. But mostly you just try to keep it simple. And not have, and never use the exclamation point important. Sometimes people will use Important because they can't figure out like why a style is not being applied. And so important says, apply this regardless of specificity. Override everything and just put this on, damn it. I don't know why it's getting overwritten. But that means that you don't know what you're doing in your code. Or you made it too complex.
Right, but you said it's not gonna affect anything as far as the work goes, right?
Important?
Just putting the word important, not gonna.
Yeah, no, it's bad practice. It's bad coding.
Or does this mean you talking, but when I put on a code, that word is not going to affect anything?
Well, the NSA starts looking at you. You get flagged as a potential radical who doesn't follow rules and doesn't practice good coding standards. No, it's fine. But just generally speaking, good practice to not use it. When you're using that, it means that you weren't able to get it to work properly. It's a fine hack if instantly you need to see something and it's not working.
I have a question. Can we use media query instead of shrinking the size of the viewport? What about just scrolling it and making changes that way? If you're scrolling down, would you be able to make changes like that? Change color of text or images? Or
Sweet, that is a great question, and I don't have the answer.
because I think I saw it on Pinterest once, and I had no idea how they did it, and I was like,
Yeah.
and I kept scrolling up and down watching the pictures change, and I'm like, it blew my mind. And then you showed me media query today, which I didn't know what it was.
So maybe height, as you get to different heights in a container, right? The background image becomes this, becomes this, becomes this at different heights for different things. Or maybe there's other properties in here that you'd set. Like I said, I'm just learning this myself. I try to talk with authority just to convey some confidence,
Height makes sense. That
make you feel like I know what I'm doing. I don't know. The best thing to do would be to look for examples. CodePen is a good place to look. You can look for examples on CodePen. You can just search for things like, one of my favorite pens, I think I showed this already, is, I just have to look at my favorite pens. I'm logged in. No. Where's my account? I guess that's me. Your profile?
That would buy snippets, correct?
Tudley. Popular, public, private, templates, forked, loved, tags. I'll probably put it under loved. Search, Misty background.
So you saved sites on there, and it shows you their code?
Yeah, well, it's people who have developed some code. They put it up there and share it,
Oh, that's cool.
and you can see how they built it. But I was like, that is totally sweet, right? It's like the mist is blowing across the road. We saw this already, right?
No.
And so you can see how they built it. But just because something's up there and it looks cool doesn't mean it's built well. But you can look at, how did somebody achieve it. That's pretty sweet, Misty background. I don't know how they did that. There's not a whole lot of CSS, right? There's not much.
You said where do you find that out in this background?
You could search for a pen by Adrian Bachman, Misty background. Well, there's the URL on CodePen. You could just pull that out and use that as a site for a client, and nobody would really ever know, right? And then go to lunch with your friends. And the client would be like, "You are so talented." You'd be like, "Yeah, I'll take another beer." I went to lunch with my wife today, and I don't usually drink at night because it just makes me want to go to bed. I got kids. But we went to Westwood's Barbecue, and I was like, man, I've been working since 7 this morning. What kind of IPAs do you have? And then they have like the 12-ounce, or for $1 more, you could get the 16-ounce, or for $1 more, you get the 22-ounce. My wife's like, get the 22-ounce. I might have a little. So I got the 22-ounce. I got totally hammered at lunch because I'm a lightweight. I came back and recorded a video. I'm like, I look drunk. Not really, but because I'm recording myself right now. Not really, but It's beer at lunch. Bankers do it all the time. So the print. So here's the print deal, right? That's it. App media print. Simple. Totally cool. And, we already saw this. And then print it, and I get dash borders this time around that. New CSS based upon what's going on. And then we have screen min width combined with, screen combined with min width. So before you just saw either a media feature or a media type. Media type is print or screen. I think I'm using the right words. All right, media type, print or screen. Then we had a media feature width, max width, min width. Here I've combined them because you could do or. We were just looking at one or the other before. Now I combine them with and. Maybe this is good in case I print it. If it's just min width 900, I might get some styles applied to my print I didn't want. So this is saying just the screen. Don't apply this when I'm printing. Okay. So that's going to show us the same thing as min width because it's on the screen. So that's one way to include media queries right in your CSS. Another way you could include media queries is when you link to style sheets. In the link to the style sheet, you can say, hey, only grab this style sheet if a certain condition is true. So here to do that, we don't use app media. We use a media attribute. And then we set the value to the media type or the media feature or both of them, right? So here I've said the media feature, min width 900 pixels. So if my viewport is 900 pixels or now, how many people say greater? Raise your hand. Is this going to be applied when my viewport is greater than 900 pixels or less? How many people say greater? How many people say less? It's hard, huh? It's the floor, min width to eternity and beyond. Yeah, it takes a while. It's not intuitive. I wish they'd, what? Question?
I was just going to say, when would you think you'd use either or versus like min or max? Like, really, like, doesn't really matter. Like, there's really no complexity. You use either or, right?
Okay, so here are two takeaways. And you want to build mobile first. So you start small. And then the small stuff should work without, that's like the CSS, to make the small thing on the mobile look good. And then as you expand the size, add in CSS through media queries to make it look good at different break points. That's what they call it. So we might have a media query that is like this. And so from 0 to 600, it's just going to be main. From 600 to 900, or can we do this? There we go. Let's put this in. So I need to create that. I'm waiting for that. MQ6, oh, I need to change it from 900 to 600. Cool, and then here, it'll be red, there it'll be green. So, and then right from the get-go, it'll be blue. So it'll be blue from 0 to 599. It'll be blue from 0 to 599, and then from 6 to 899 it'll be green, and from 900 plus it'll be red. There are the rules. Let's see if I know not of that which I speak. Blue, green, red. Ooh, nice.
Just for giggles,
That's nice.
we have the
The what?
Inspect.
The inspect view,
Sure.
that's a good one.
Blue up to 599. 600, green. Up to 899. $900, red. Makes you happy.
I look at websites all the time and they are not this detailed.
Yeah, they are.
No, I mean, it's like, now this seems like you can do something really good with it, you know, maybe like you wanna go to that webpage, like, for example, I went to Walmart, I had to go jogging suits, $8, and it took forever, and everything, when you would shrink the screen or enlarge it, it didn't meld together at all. I think I went to the clearance site.
So there's a break point right there. They changed their layout.
Oh, it looked like crap last week.
And they should have another break point right there where it just goes one item per column. So that would be phone. And then tablet should be, that's all right. They might be using flex right there. See how that stuff's flexing?
Somebody had to fix it, because last week, every time you move from one side, like, as you enlarge, it does not do that. It's 5 minutes or a few seconds or whatever, and it's not a good flow at all.
Yeah, it could have also been the browser. All right, I'm going to take that out. Actually, I'll leave that in. What the heck? So that's cool.
What browser were you in?
Chrome. It's the browser you should be using. So the main takeaway is that here you can put it into the index or into the link for media query. And here's the link in the media query. Right there. And then here's the one for that same example, screen and min width. Okay. But I think this is a pretty cool example right at the beginning that we just did, where it had 0 to 599, 600 to 899, 900 up. Thought that was cool.
I have a question.
Okay.
For the print one, when you have it up there at the top, does it call print when the page loads so that you get the print dialog box, or?
Oh, that's a good question. And there's print. So when does this? When does that get brought down? That's kind of the question, right? How can we find out?
Oh, just a print.
Well, let's go over here. Bring up Developer Tools. And we'll go down here and let's look at maybe Network. You okay?
Yeah.
And refresh that. And we got Index, and we got Main CSS, and then we got MQ Print CSS, Media Query Print CSS. So it brought it down. Even though we haven't printed yet.
So then what's the purpose of putting it?
So is this come down in different order if it's like that? Nope, not a different order. So Chrome understood to load that last. And so when Chrome works to show you what you want to see as quickly as possible. So you're going to print last. You're going to look at it and then print. So let's bring that print down last. So it brought down our other styles and then did it. So what's the point of separating your CSS? Well, we're able to reformat. Right? The media query lets us reformat when we print it. Stop. But why have it in two separate style sheets as opposed to one? I think it's easier to have like 10 files of CSS, which kind of, hey, here's my CSS for my printed document. Here's my CSS for 900 and above. Here's my CSS for 600 to 900. And then each of those I could kind of wrap my head around as opposed to one document that's got 400 lines and 3 chunks of media queries, you know. And then I could just focus on here's from 0 to 600, and that's the CSS that makes it work that way. And from 600 to 8 or 0 to 599, and from 600 to 899, I'm going to be inheriting everything, all the CSS from 0 to 599. Right? That's going to be still applied, but when I build the 6 to 899, I could overwrite that. And then as I build the next one, 900 up, will inherit everything from 0 to 599, since the 600 to 899 was only applied to that area. I'm in a new viewport size, so I won't be applying that other chunk. Now, also putting it into separate files as opposed to one large file. If it's one large file, then I don't know what window I just opened here. Sources. If there's one large file, then Chrome couldn't make a distinction and say, oh, this is for print. I'm going to download that last. Because Chrome is able to look at my HTML document and then say media print, that's going last, right? If it's one large document, I'd have to download that whole document. Now, in the past, performance was really tied to, you had to really think about how many requests am I making of the server. And people got really, you know, for performance, really got freaked out about requests to server. And then in 2011, Google started working on the Speedy project. And that Speedy project got wrapped into HTTP2. And HTTP2 is not about improving bandwidth. It's about overcoming flaws of TCP/IP. And TCP/IP has latency issues, which meant minimize the request, because every request had like a handshake process where it's like, let me send over the request, then the TCP acknowledges it, and then the client acknowledges receipt of the acknowledgement, and each of those is like 90 milliseconds. Well, one handshake back and forth, and there's a closing handshake. Well, that's 270 times 2. That's like half of a second for handshaking. And that's for every single request through TCP/IP, right? That's every request. And so limit the request, because you're wasting a half second every request. That's a little bit of an exaggeration on the times. And that's just a general way of talking about it. I've been watching this training on Pluralsight, which is interesting and also super in depth, right? Like, okay, whatever. But you watch this thing where they talk about a whole bunch of complexity. You can see it's like only been the last day. I've been paying for this thing since January. It's like, oh, this looks good. But HTTP2 fundamentals, and I'm like only halfway through the second section. That's where I'm like learning this. And with HTTP2, you want to make as many. It doesn't matter anymore, right? Somehow it gets around that entire acknowledging, handshaking deal. And so here's an example of that. Akamai HTTP2 and the future of the internet. So that's HTTP1. That image was built with a bunch of small images. That's HTTP2. Same bandwidth, different latency, no handshaking, or minimized handshaking. So we made, however many images are here, we made that many requests to the server, and it looked like, I don't know, they were pretty small, right? So those are pretty small little chunks. We're making like, who knows how many requests there? But it's the latency is 49 milliseconds. Load time is 4.3 seconds versus 2.64. And this is based upon a Go deal that describes the difference between HTTP1 and HTTP2. And so you could experiment with it here. HTTP2 with 0 latency. Bam. HTTP1 with 0 latency. Right? HTTP2 with 1 second latency. HTTP1 with 1 second latency for each request. So just like a lot of handshaking, basically. So you can see why you'd want to minimize your number of requests with HTTP 1.1. It's like the latency thing. each request, there's this acknowledging, handshaking latency for each request. But with HTTP2, latency basically got, who cares, it doesn't matter. So make as many requests as you want now, which to me means, great, I no longer need to use sprites, which was one request, all of my little images in one big file, and then I just like choose, let me see which image to display out of that, go to the coordinates on that image. Screw it, I'm just going to have 800 little images in a folder and ask for the images I want, and only download the images I want, right? And I'm going to have 10 style sheets. Perfect. And I got to run on HTTP2.
HTTP2 is just rolling out.
175,000 websites have it. Just rolling out.
Just rolling out.
It's just rolling out. But that's I say build for it. And you got to be HTTPS to use HTTP2. Okay? There is a way around it, which that video I was watching talks about. But basically browsers implement it with you need to be HTTPS. And that just has all kinds of benefits in terms of defeating man-in-the-middle attacks and replay attacks and hacking things. It's just all encrypted. Nobody can see it.
Makes sense. Now it makes sense. Oh. now-
But it is more expensive because you gotta buy a cert, you gotta buy a site cert for HTTPS, which means your entire site has to be on there. So I only know because I tried to do it recently.
Israel, what is the pocket knife one that they showed us? What was that?
What was that? The one they showed us over summer?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
So there's a place where you can get free, what do they call it? Certificate. Free HTTPS certificate. And it's Start SSL. So you could get a free one. They used to have a really dopey looking website. Looks good now. Remember how dopey it was over the summer? We're like, that looks so dopey.
That's why I decided not to use it.
Bootstrap helping everybody.
Huh?
Bootstrap helping everybody.
Yeah, so it's free here. And they're charging for something now.
Yeah.
So free, you get some stuff, and then you pay a little, you get more stuff. And that's the Go course, which I'll be teaching in the fall. We learn all this. And so just to see how do you do that in Go. That's not the one I want.
Question. For your Go class, do you have any recommendations on like fundamentals of programming that somebody would want to look at ahead of schedule?
Yeah, just my course on Udemy.
Oh, you do? Okay.
And I gave you access to that already, didn't I? So the coupon code for $9 you could get on with the coupon code Let's Go, LETSGO. So anyhow, that's HTTPS right there. You have a cert and a key, and then you could connect it with Go to your server, and you connect it to your server in Go. Right here, where you say serve TLS. TLS is the new SSL, just like 45 is the new 25. TLS is the new SSL. And you say serve on whatever port, right? And here's the cert and the key, and it'll serve HTTPS. So if it's a production server, you'd have the ones that you got from Start SSL. But if you're just experimenting, you could generate in Go your own cert and key. They have a little helper program which you could run. So you just run it like that at the command line, and that generates a cert and a key which you could use to test for local development at localhost. And you'll learn that in the fall if you take that class with me. It'll be awesome. All right, so that's kind of cool about HTTP 2 and media queries. We have a couple of last files to look at with media queries, and then we'll be done with media queries. I think that'll be the topic for today. We did that one. So here is, these are both the same. This one here puts the media query in the CSS. This one here puts the media query into the links, right? And so this is the taco menu. It's our trusty taco menu. And when we get to 600, you can see it changes. And the menu goes to the top. So we changed the whole location of the menu in the CSS. Right? And it says down here less than $5.99. And then over here, the menu goes to the left. And more than 600. So that's that. And the CSS for it is, and it also, I have a print there. So less than $5.99 is that. And body, 1 pixel black, max width 700, margin 0 auto. Nav LI, list type, style type none, display inline block, margin 0, 5 pix. And then that section last child after is just to create a pseudo element, double colons, make a pseudo element, the after bit, and it adds some content. So that adds that text less than $5.99. That's just from somebody else I saw somewhere. I thought that's cool. And then 600, same thing, border 1 pixel black, max width 700, margin 0 auto. So before we add same thing on body. Nav is float left 25% width. So we change the layout. Nav LI, list style type none. Section margin left 25%, give room for what was floated. And then that thing at the end. So just kind of interesting.
I'm curious, with the nav, it's originally horizontal. Would you say it's better to float rather than change the display?
I lean towards Flexbox as much as possible. And one of the things which we have coming up is Google has some really nice Flexbox design patterns. And I think I showed these already, did I not? So these are some of their most common Flexbox design patterns. And this is Google code. So when you look at like the layout code on that, it's real sparse. Display flex, flex flow, row wrap, width 100%, width 50%. We hit a media breakpoint, the widths change. We hit another one, it changes a little. And then all that, when we add in the styling, comes out to this. And so I think that that's really going to help clarify for us how do we start applying Flexbox, media queries, thinking about different layouts. Some of the main takeaways that I got from the research and reading I did, intended primarily. So media types, those are the different media types, right? All, print, screen. Media features, min width, max height, max height. And then some examples in the CSS, that's what your media query looks like. Or in a link, that's what your media query looks like. So just a little bit of a review. And I'm right here in this README section. And then there's some attributes which you shouldn't use. You shouldn't use max device width or min device width. And this comes from Google. And they say max width is the width of the target display area, e.g. the browser. That's max width. Max device width is the width of the device's entire rendering area, the actual device screen. So, you're looking at this through the browser, so use max width. Don't use max device width. And same with min width, right? But the opposite side, min versus max. And then we have best practices. So you want to create breakpoints based on content, never on specific devices, products, or brands. So just make it look good small, make it look good medium, make it look good large, and then to hell with it, close enough. Design for the small mobile device first, then progressively enhance the experience as more screen real estate becomes available. So mobile first. And keeps the lines of text a maximum of around 70 or 80 characters. So readability theory suggests that an ideal column should be 70 to 80 characters per line, about 8 to 10 words in English. Each time the width of the text block grows past 10 words, a breakpoint should be considered. And the sources for that are here. So Mozilla, I got some of that stuff from Mozilla in 01 text. And here is Web Fundamentals, Design UNI, Responsive Fundamentals at Google. And then the 02 file I got from Menu Cool and also Web Fundamentals. And then the 03 file I got from Web Fundamentals. So this Web Fundamentals thing is a Google deal. And here's the Web Fundamentals. Getting started, designing UI, responsive layouts. And so with responsive layouts, here are the basics. Responsive web design basics, set the viewport. So we'll learn about the viewport still. And use media queries, how to choose breakpoints. And then there are the responsive web design patterns with Flexbox. So how to choose breakpoints and using media queries is where I got some of those best practices I just went over with you. So things you learned today, you learned the viewport is the browser window basically. You learned about media queries, and media queries start with @media, and then you could have a media type or a media feature. And the media type could be print, it could be all, it could be screen, it could be print, it could be speech, but I don't know why you'd use speech. And the media feature could be like width, like min width, max width. So generally speaking, you'll use min width, max width, screen, print. And you could use one, just media print, @media print, or you could do, @media print and min width, 600 pixels. The min width 600 pixels goes in parentheses, so the media feature part goes in parentheses. And there's the example of that right here, right? And then the, if you're doing a link thing, it doesn't go in parentheses. I don't know what the hell I just said. This part goes in parentheses right here. And then if you're doing a link thing, you don't have the @media. Dang, let me record that video. That'll be another hour. You guys mind? So that's media queries. How many people learned something new today? How many people knew all that? Cool. Glad you hung out anyhow. Thank you for your contributions. Have a good night. Anybody want to ride with me to Bitwise?